Three Kingdoms. This military strategist mistreated Lu Bu, and Cao Cao became numb. Introduction. www.zhaozhuiyuan.com. Jade traveled to the end of the Han dynasty and awakened the system. At the beginning, he gained the courage of Li Yuanba, but the system made him a strategist. Helpless, he chose to join Cao Cao with his brother Jian Wei. On the first day, Xiahou almost went blind. Xiahou. I looked at him very fierce at the time, but I didn't expect him to be really fierce. https://www.zhaoshuan.com. Chapter 1. Full force, but wants to be a counselor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In 190 AD, which is the first year of Chuping, Dong Zhuo acted in reverse and deposed the emperor, causing the people of the world to be in dire straits. Cao Cao issued a false edict, and the heroes of the world responded one after another. The 18 feudal lords jointly launched a campaign against Dong Zhuo to punish the traitors and support the Han dynasty. The north wind is fierce, blowing the flags of the Cao camp. A large number of young men responded to the call and prepared to join the army to fight against Dong. At this moment, there are two people standing out in the midst of this vast expanse of youth. One of them is 8 feet tall and as sturdy as a pine tree. Muscles twisted and knotted, tiger-backed and bare waist, with 2 big halberds pinned to the waist. Walking with a tiger and tiger-like aura, it exudes a heroic demeanor. And the other, although also 9 feet tall, has a strong and handsome face, which can be said to be a great man. Name: Jian Wei, Force. 98, Command. 72, Intelligence. 35, Internal Affairs. 29, Jian Wei's mouth twitched and he felt very speechless in his heart. Do you really want to be a strategist? I think, like us, we should still enjoy the battles on the battlefield and the collisions of muscles. This is the romance of men. Speaking, Jian Wei also made a pose and showcased his biceps. My younger brother has an extraordinary appearance and can be said to be a handsome young man from all over the country. And with a burly figure and a wolf back and waist, it looks like a good material for a fierce general. When Jian Wei heard his younger brother pulling him to join the army, he was quite happy, but when he asked him what he wanted to do, he actually said he wanted to become a strategist. Jian Wei felt like he was already fierce enough, but every time he fought, he couldn't beat his younger brother. Jian is also very helpless. If he doesn't become a strategist, he can't do it. If he doesn't become a strategist, he must become a father. In law. Jian, a supporter of the 21st century Chao thief. Lick the evergreen tree in the dog, the pillar in the clown. The mascot in McDonald's, the big boss of Gotham City. 18 years ago, he was born into the Three Kingdoms and awakened to the strongest military division system, and sent a wave of novice gift packages on the spot. The so-called Confucian scholars refer to those who use their left fist for benevolence, and their right fist for reason, using virtue to persuade people, using reason to persuade people, reading classics proficiently, and possessing both virtue and talent. Congratulations to the host for gaining the courage of Li Yuanba. I hope the host will continue to work hard and catch up with Confucius. At that time, Jian's eyes turned pale. Okay, the Confucian scholar has been thoroughly understood by your child. So Jian spent his days wandering around the village. Until a few months ago, task. Can a Confucian scholar who is not a military strategist still be considered a Confucian scholar? Task description. As a Confucian scholar of the great Han dynasty, how can one not aim to become famous and establish oneself in the world? As the saying goes, cultivating oneself, governing one's family, governing the country, and pacifying the world. I hope the host can become a well-known strategist. Reward. Li Yuanba's weapon, drum-beating jar, golden hammer, and mount, shining with smoke and clouds for thousands of miles. Punishment for task failure. 10 constant attendance rebellion, If you can't become a strategist, you'll have to be sent to the cholera court in the palace. Reward the host to become the egg-left old man. I almost scared Jade to death at that time. This is a chaotic military situation, and I am still a mud-legged person. Where can I become a strategist? At this moment, Cao Cao's edict was issued, and Jade brought his brother Jian Wei to join the army. Jade looked at his attributes at this moment. Name. Jade, Force. 100, Command. 72, 65, Intelligence. 68, 83, Internal Affairs. 64, with this force, Lu Bu knelt down when he saw it. Jade felt the surging power in his body. Following the team, it was finally their turn. Name. Code of Virtue, Code of Righteousness and Strategy. The receptionist looked at Jade, a man with a big chest and arms thicker than his own legs, and couldn't help but sigh with a fierce expression. Seeing that the petty officials were about to write him down to the new recruits' camp, Jade quickly stopped him. Wait, I'm not here to become a soldier, I'm here to be a strategist. What? The clerk let out a scream of surprise and almost dodged to his waist. How could such a majestic and tall general with such a tiger back and a bare waist become a strategist? Not bad, I just came to be a strategist. At the age of 3, I studied literature, at the age of 6, I studied Confucianism, read classics, and excelled in both poetry and prose. Can't I still be a strategist like this? The level of serious lies from Jade really managed to coax this petty official. I can't help but think that it's really me who judges people based on their appearance. This person is actually a talented person with a groove in their chest. Jade looked at the young official and was stunned, then said, if you don't believe me, you can test me. I am a scholar of sages. The clerk only felt his heart beating, but he patiently asked. When you hear the Tao in the morning, you may die in the evening. Explain what it means. Jade looked confident and looked up, slowly saying. I don't know. The clerk's face turned slightly black. So. What is the first sentence of Zhuangzi? Sorry, I don't know either. If you don't know, you just don't know. Our classic focuses on honesty. Practice more, don't lose, don't practice. After thinking for a moment, the servant realized that it's not easy to make a living now. I'll give you another chance, this idiot. Shaoli, do you know why Sima Gong, who wrote Records of the Grand Historian, was punished? I don't know, but I know he's become a eunuch. The petty official couldn't help but hang 3 black lines on his forehead and fell silent. Brother, why are you so surprised by your attention? If you catch someone, shouldn't you lament Sima Qian's noble character? I am truly worthy of reading the books of sages and sages proficiently. Jade put his hands around his chest and said with an air to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Jian Wei secretly supported his forehead and sighed. The servant rubbed his forehead. The atmosphere began to feel awkward. What's going on? At this moment, a big man walked out of the military camp. The big man had a burly figure, a resolute face, and fiery eyes, revealing perseverance and indomitability. Wearing iron armor, exuding a majestic and extraordinary aura, it is awe-inspiring. The small official saw the big man and quickly arched his hand, saying, General Xiahou, it's like this. Soon, the petty official told the big man what had just happened. After listening, the big man nodded. This wolf carries a bee waist, this size, this height, this muscle, it's just a standard rough warrior. And the strong man behind him is also a fierce general. What kind of strategist should this person be? They must become a general, and in the future, they will be expected to climb to the top of the city first. Xiahou Dun looked at Jade, and Jade also looked at Xiahou Dun at the same time. Name. Xiahou Dun, Force. 91, Command. 89, Intelligence. 62. Internal Affairs. 72. This is Xiahou done. His intelligence is truly worthy of the name. No wonder he has been defeated repeatedly in battles and generals. Just as Jade was still observing Xiahou done suddenly spoke. How about this man? Let's have a competition later. If you win, I will recommend you to my lord and ask him to appoint you as a strategist. If you lose, you and the brave man behind you will be my personal guards. How about that? Okay, once a word is spoken, it's hard to recall. Jade's gaze was firm and he agreed without hesitation. Chapter 2 Xiahou done. I didn't expect him to almost blind me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There is a schoolyard within the barracks. Jade Jianwei followed Xiahou done to this campus. Jade Xiahou done stood in opposition. Jianwei came over with 2 iron rods of more than 10 feet each, throwing them at Jade Xiahou done. The two of them held each other with one hand. We'll just use an iron rod until the end of this competition to avoid damaging harmony. Xiahou done explained to Jade. Jade nodded in agreement. Grasping the iron rod into his hand, Xiahou done grabbed a firearm and carried it behind him, exuding a murderous aura. His eyes were firm and sharp, staring closely at his opponent in front of him. Although he was not blind yet, he was truly worthy of the title of Blind Xiahou. However, Jade felt uncomfortable holding this long stick, so he decided to break the iron rod in half, one hand half. Jade shook the iron rod, but it was still a bit lighter. Seeing this scene, Jianwei was fine. After all, he and Jade were brothers and knew what Jade's strength was. However, Xiahou done's pupils suddenly shrank and he took a few steps back. The soldiers around the schoolyard all stared wide and took a deep breath. The whole room fell silent. Breaking an iron rod with bare hands is such divine power. Let's get started. Jade put on a good posture and spoke loudly. Xiahou done was also worthy of being a fierce general. In an instant, he took a deep breath, adjusted himself, tightly grasped the gun barrel, and responded in a deep voice. Come on. Xiahou done suddenly shouted in anger, and his iron rod went out to sea like a dragon, striking directly at the door of Jade. Jade showed no weakness and swept across with a single stick, colliding with Xiahou done's iron rod and making deafening noises. Suddenly, dust was flying, and the figures of the two were faintly visible in the dust. Xiahou done has some strength and can take on my full blow. Xiahou done's hand holding the stick trembled slightly. Just now, he seemed to have collided with a big mountain, and the impact almost made him release the iron rod. Xiahou done, as the saying goes, is 1 inch long and 1 inch strong. Xiahou done's iron rod dances like the wind, wanting to use it to harass Jade and consume his energy. However, Jade rushed towards Xiahou done like a tiger or leopard, with a heavy iron rod in his hand, and suddenly struck Xiahou done's face door. In a hurry, Xiahou done blocked with a horizontal stick. Bang! The two sticks and iron bars were wrestling with each other, and the school field echoed with intense metal clashes. I saw that the sand on the school field had been dented by 2 people. Just as Xiahou done was about to retreat, Jade's single stick suddenly exerted force to press it down, while the other stick was as fierce and precise as a venomous snake, charging straight towards Xiahou done's cheekbones. At this moment, Xiahou done released the iron rod and leaned back. The iron rod was only 0.01 centimeters away from his right eye. Almost Xiahou done was about to evolve into a blind Xiahou in advance. Give up, I give up. Xiahou done gasped for breath and hurriedly said. The sand under Jade's feet has actually collapsed and cracked open. The soldiers around took a breath of cold air when they saw this terrifying scene. This is still human. This is the only thought that flashed through the hearts of these soldiers. As for that petty official, he had already looked dumbfounded. General Xiahou unexpectedly lost, which is something that everyone cannot even imagine in their hearts. These songs are all privately raised personal soldiers of Xiahou Dun, and I have never seen Xiahou Dun so embarrassed when facing a person. Only Jian Wei looked at the results on the field with a calm expression and no inner turmoil. Even Xiahou Dun himself could defeat him, let alone his own younger brother. Xiahou Dun clenched his fists, his hands trembling in clenching slightly. The hero is formidable. I will immediately report to the Lord and recommend you to him. No need, Yuan Rang, I'm here. I saw a middle-aged man who was a bit short and chubby, with slightly black skin but full of authority, emitting a fierce aura from his every move. He ran over. Just now, Cao Cao was patrolling the military camp when he happened to see Xiahou Dun fighting with Jade. As is well known, Boss Cao loves collection cards the most. He likes to collect wife cards, such as Zhang Xiu's and Zhou Shi, Qinilu's wife Du Shi, He Jin's daughter in Luoyang Shi, and so on. Air likes to collect fierce general cards, like today's Jian Wei and Jade. Boss Cao is so greedy. Cao Cao looked at Jade with a resolute face, 9 feet tall, and a strong physique. He also saw the 8-foot-tall man next to him, with a double halberd waist and a broad waist. Standing there, he didn't get angry or intimidated, which made Cao Cao drool. Afterwards, I couldn't help but sigh, these are the 2 fierce generals bestowed upon me by heaven. Xiahou Dun hurriedly walked up to Cao Cao and lowered his head to clasp his fists. Lord, this person's name is Jade, which means Mao. You just saw this strength, which is enough to be a great general, that is. Xiahou Dun silently pointed to his brain. He doesn't want to be a general, he wants to be your advisor. After hearing this, Cao Cao also had a hint of doubt. This well-behaved and powerful general should not be considered a strategist. However, Boss Cao is Boss Cao, waving his hand at Xiahou Dun, indicating that he will handle Jade. So, do you really want him to be a strategist? Xiahou Dun asked cautiously. Are you foolish or am I foolish enough to make such a fierce general a strategist? Cao Cao looked at Xiahou Dun with displeasure. Xiahou Dun was fine with everything except his nerves and a single muscle in his head. How could such a person really make him a strategist? It's better to make him a strategist than to make you a singer at a dance banquet. Immediately after, Cao Cao's eyes lit up with golden light, showing a smile of recruiting talents, and he walked towards Jade. Jade looked at this little black chubby guy. Name. Cao Cao, Force. 72, Command. 99, Intelligence. 92, Internal Affairs. 91, you truly deserve to be Mr. Cao. Looking for Shuyuan. www.zhaoshuyuan.com is almost full except for military force. Watching Cao Cao walk towards him, Jade had already imagined the scene of his feather fan and silk scarf, and his oars flying with ashes and smoke disappearing while chatting and laughing. This brave warrior is exceptionally skilled in martial arts, and his aura engulfs mountains and rivers. He is truly known for his unparalleled strength, and can be said to be a hegemon in the world. Cao Cao grabbed Jade's hand and continued to lightly tap, affectionately speaking to him. If you don't give up, I will hold military positions under Cao Cao's command for you to choose from. Huh, Duke Cao is joking. But with a smile on his face, Jade felt that something was wrong. Didn't I want to be a strategist? How could I choose military positions under my command? Turning to his senses, he interrupted his conversation and laughter with righteous words. Military position, do you want me to be a general? Yes, that's right. Giving orders to generals and commanding thousands of troops and horses on stage is similar to being a strategist, isn't it? Cao Cao smiled awkwardly, with a feeling of deception. No, for a certain generation of weak scholars, taking Confucius as a role model, how could they engage in fierce battles with their mouths full? They would become ordinary people. Therefore, the general would rather appoint me as a military advisor. Jianda was quite proud and believed that what he said was very reasonable. A weak scholar. Do you still look down on Pifu? Everyone present, who can have you, a 9-foot-tall man? Everyone on the field looked at him silently. How dare you, do you have a conscience when you say this? In the end, Cao Cao had no choice but to appoint him as the accompanying chief clerk. And at this moment, Jianda finally showed a smile. Don't be a eunuch anymore. Chapter 3. Cao Cao's Shock. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the task. Rewards are currently being distributed. My lord, it's not good, my lord. I saw a soldier running towards Cao Cao's group. What happened? Cao Cao quickly asked. A horse suddenly ran over from outside our military camp, and not only that, but also something suddenly hit the ground, making a big hole. In the end, when we looked closely, it turned out to be 2 sledgehammers. The soldier gasped for breath and said. Oh. Now the horse and sledgehammer are still outside the camp, and the sledgehammer is incredibly heavy. None of us, 4 or 5, can lift a single one. Coming from the sky. Was it bestowed by immortals? Xiahou said in confusion. Just take a look and you'll know. Cao Cao led a group of people towards the outside of the camp. At this time, outside the camp, a tall, robust, and exceptionally strong black horse is braying, with hooves 9 feet high from the back and a length of 4 feet from head to tail. Its whole body is as black as ink, and it is truly transparent in black. Can really be called a divine horse. The whole group couldn't even move their eyes when they saw this horse. Xiahou could no longer bear it, and before Cao Cao could give orders, he rubbed his palms and hurriedly ran towards the misty clouds for thousands of miles. The horse seemed to look at Xiahou with great disdain. Xiahou took a deep breath and slowly extended his hands, walking towards the horse. His palms are wide and thick, with distinct knuckles, as if containing endless power. However, the horse didn't seem to buy it. Suddenly, it looked up and let out a long hiss, with a deafening sound. Its hooves kicked wildly, leaving the ground dusty. Xiahou was not afraid at all. With a movement of his body, he leaped towards the back of the horse like lightning. However, the horse seemed to have anticipated it earlier. It suddenly turned to avoid Xiahou's attack. Xiahou stumbled and almost fell to the ground, but he immediately steadied himself and charged towards the horse again. This time, Xiahou was even more cautious, tightly grasping the horse's mane in an attempt to stabilize his body. However, the horse seemed even more violent. It kicked its hooves and kept shaking its head, trying to shake Xiahou off the horse's back. Xiahou gritted his teeth and exerted all his strength to tame this fierce horse. However, the horse seemed to be getting more and more wild, with sweat all over its body and a crazy light shining in its eyes. In the end, in a fierce swing, Xiahou was finally thrown off his horse and fell heavily to the ground. Xiahou lay on the ground, covered in dust and disheveled. He looked at the fierce horse with a hint of unwillingness and helplessness in his eyes. At this time, Cao Cao and Jian Wei were even more afraid to go and train horses. Jianda smiled, his gaze deep and peaceful. That horse, originally wild and unruly, had shiny fur and a wild look in its eyes. But when it saw Jianda, a hint of curiosity and closeness seemed to flash in its eyes. It slowly walked towards the code of virtue, each step appearing so natural and calm. Jianda extended his hand and gently stroked the horse's mane, giving it a warm and smooth touch. The horse seemed to enjoy this intimate contact, slightly bowing its head as if signaling that Jianda could ride on its back. Jianda smiled slightly. He was not in a hurry to get on the horse's back, but continued to communicate with the horse. He patted the horse's neck with his hand and whispered, as if he was talking something. The horse seemed to understand his words, gently shaking its head with a gentle expression in its eyes that it was willing to be tamed. Immediately, Jianda flipped over and easily mounted his horse. Jianda rode his horse around the military camp, as if the horse had gone through thousands of trials and tribulations with its owner, showing no signs of bitterness. Cao Cao and Dian Wei were even more amazed. And Xiahou showed a bitter smile. Well, let me take a look at that hammer. Xiahou walked forward about 200 steps and then saw the large pit that the soldiers had described. This sledgehammer actually pierced the ground for a full meter, indicating its power. Xiahou carefully observed the pair of golden hammers. This pair of hammers must have been made of extraterrestrial meteorites, as if they had been plated with golden water on the outside, shining brightly and eye-catching. If someone were to dance, it would definitely be a mountain landslide, a ground fissure, covering the sky and sun, and incredibly strong. Xiahou attempted to lift the heavy golden hammer from the bottom of the pit, but it seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and no matter how hard he tried, he could only barely shake it. His forehead was bulging with veins, and sweat dripped down his cheeks into the dust, each drop appearing so heavy. His arms trembled and his muscles tightened, as if he was about to pour all his strength into this golden hammer. However, the golden hammer remained motionless, as if mocking his powerlessness. Let me give it a try. At this moment, Cao Cao and Dian Wei also walked into the pit. Dian Wei saw that Xiahou could not lift the golden hammer with such force, so he volunteered to give it a try. Dian Wei took a deep breath, adjusted his breathing and posture, and began to try. He slowly exerted his strength, injecting it bit by bit into his arms. The golden hammer began to slowly rise, but only for a moment. Dian Wei couldn't hold on, and the golden hammer automatically landed. Lord, this golden hammer probably weighs 400 pounds. No one in the world can pick up such a weapon, let alone use it to kill enemies. Xiahou explained to Cao Cao. It's not my dish, it's because this hammer is too heavy. At this moment, Zhaozuiyuan.com rode towards Jianda, who was illuminated by thousands of miles of smoke and clouds, to find a book garden. I saw Jianda bowing down and pulling out the golden hammer with both hands. The smoke from thousands of miles shone on the clouds, and Jianda raised the hammer with both hands, as if he were a divine being. As the horses galloped, Jianda waved his golden hammer, each wave accompanied by a thunderous roar. The golden hammer seems to draw golden trajectories in the sky, like a shooting star crossing the night sky, making it overwhelming. Yuan rang, is this what you said no one can lift? Cao Cao was already dumbfounded at this moment. I thought I would create an SR, but I didn't expect it to be an SSR. At this moment, Boss Cao was very arrogant and had already begun to think about how to deceive Jianda into becoming a general. Is this virtue still human? It's so divine and brave. Xiahou was a bit skeptical about life at this moment. Kid, I've been trying my best to pick it up, but I can't even pick it up. Are you just picking it up like a wooden stick? Dian Wei lowered his head slightly at this moment, as if pondering something. Well, in the future, you can't argue with my younger brother about anything. I'm sure he'll get beaten up by him. Jianda rode his horse back and put his double hammers on the horse. The smoke from thousands of miles illuminated the clouds as if only supporting a few feathers, without any pressure. Emo, don't worry, tomorrow, I will seal the altar and pay respects to the general. Cao Cao excitedly took Jianda's hand and said with emotion. No, a little black chubby guy can't stand looking at himself like this. Cao Cao laughed and walked away, collecting another card. Great. And Jianda came back to his senses, thinking to himself. It seems like something's wrong. He hurriedly ran towards Boss Cao. Lord, I am a strategist. Chapter 4. Seizing the role of Second Lord. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In January of 190 AD, sour dates. After Cao Cao issued a proclamation, various feudal lords from all over the world rose up in response. There are. On the first route, General Yuan Shu, the prefect of Nanyang. The second route, governor of Jizhou Han Fu. The third route is the governor of Yuzhou, Kong Qian. The fourth route, Yenzhou governor Lu Dai. The fifth route is Wang Quang, the prefect of Hanoi County. The sixth route, Chen Lu's prefect Zhang Miao. The seventh route is Qiao Mao, the governor of Dongjun. Eighth route, Yuan Yi, the prefect of Shenyang. The ninth route, Jibei Xiangbao Xian. The 10th route is Kong Rong, the governor of Beihai. The 11th route, Guanling prefect Zhang Chao. The 12th route, Suzhou governor Tao Qian. The 13th route, Ma Teng, the prefect of Xingyang. The 14th route, Beiping prefect Gongsun Zan. The 15th route, Shandong prefect Zhongying. The 16th route is Sun Jian, the Marquis of Wucheng and the governor of Changsha. On the 17th route, Yuan Shao, the Marquis of Qixing and the prefect of Bohai. Along with Boss Chao, there were a total of 18 feudal lords, and the vast soup of Yusuanzhao formed an alliance. Among them, Yuan Shao had the most troops and horses, with the highest reputation. The position of General Yuan Shu in all directions is the highest among the official positions of various feudal lords. Boss Chao issued a proclamation, occupying the righteousness. Within the territory of the allied forces, 18 feudal lords erected high platforms and appointed Yuan Shao from Bohai as the leader of the allied forces. 3 animals, including cattle, sheep, and pigs, offered sacrifices to the heavens, wielded swords and palms, swore blood as an alliance, and declared to heaven and earth to jointly fight against national bandits. In the early morning, various feudal lords sat with their respective generals in the tent of the coalition army. Among them, Yuan Shaoju was sitting in the middle, with Yuan Shu as the leader and each person talking. At this moment, Cao Cao led 4 people into the large tent. And among them, the 9-foot-tall Dienda stands out the most. Dienda is dressed in white, wearing a silver hair crown on his head, holding a feather fan in his hand, but has nothing to do with Confucianism. The feudal lords all focused their attention on Dienda, but didn't say anything. Cao Cao took his seat, and 4 people from Dienda stood behind him. Dienda gently shakes the feather fan, feeling contented and contented. Jian Wei leaned slightly towards Dienda and whispered, "Brother, it's not as hot as this big winter." "What fan are you shaking?" "Big brother, you don't understand. What I'm shaking is not the wind, it's a kind of demeanor." At this moment, the Xiahou brothers did not answer anything. Based on their interactions over the past few days, the Xiahou brothers have determined that this Dienda is simply a reckless man. After getting drunk, he often claimed to be a disciple of 100 schools of thought, telling them about the thunderous tactics of various schools of thought. Someone was 9 feet tall, muscular all over, and had numerous disciples under his command. The king didn't treat him well when he saw him. Why can one travel around the world unscathed? Without others, persuade others with noble character and reason. At this point, Dienda will invite Xiahou Dun and Xiahou Yuan to travel around the world with him in the future. Afterwards, he was carried away by Dian Wei. After all, after getting drunk, I can't stand it anymore. At this moment, the Xiahou brothers all felt that if a descendant who was arranged heard Dienda arranging his ancestors like this, he would be able to fight against Dienda. Just as the Xiahou brothers were secretly choreographing the code of virtue, a young general ran into the tent and quickly reported. "Report to the leader of the alliance, there is a person who claims to be Hua Xiong. He picks the red robe of Sun Taisho with a gun and leads troops outside the pass, shouting loudly." Previously, Sun Jian had already suffered a major defeat to Hua Xiong and lost a brave general named Zhu Mao. And Bao Zhong, the younger brother of Bao Xian, was also beheaded by the Hua Xiong formation. At this moment, all the feudal lords dare not speak lightly. "Look at me, I look at you. Everyone, who dares to go to war?" Yuan Shao asked. A young general turned out from behind Yuan Shu and arched his hand to fight. This is my brave general, Yushi. Yuan Shu smiled and said. Yushi ran away in an instant, and the young general immediately came to report. General Yu and Hua Xiong were only able to fight for 3 times before being beheaded by the formation. Yuan Shao was greatly surprised and quickly asked. Everyone, who else dares to fight? At this moment, a grand general emerged from behind Han Fu, standing 8 feet tall, with a large arm and a round waist, holding a large axe, exuding a majestic aura. I have General Pan Feng, who can slay Hua Xiong. Han Fu confidently said. Jianda stared at Pan Feng and fixed his gaze. Name. Pan Feng, Force. 89, Command. 83, Intelligence. 40, Internal Affairs. 23, it is rumored that Pan Feng was already exceptionally powerful and was a major obstacle for Yuan Shao to take over Jizhou, so he wanted to harm him. It seems that what he said is true, Jianda thought to himself. Yuan Shao was overjoyed and said to the reporter. Someone, hand over the leader's beloved horse to General Pan to assist him in the battle against the enemy. Pan Feng bowed his hand to thank him and walked out with a large axe in his hand. Not long after, the young general came to report again. Report, General Pan Feng has been beheaded by Hua Xiong again. At this moment, all the lords present were shocked. Yuan Shao couldn't help but sigh. If there is one of my generals, Yan Liang, Wen Chou, here, why be afraid of this little hero? Just as Guan Eryi behind Liu Bei was about to step out. Chao's subordinate's chief clerk, Jianda, can slay Hua Xiong. Cao Cao looked at Jianda with pride at this moment. Emo, it's time for the world to know your strength. Jianda couldn't help but blush. I am a civil servant, how can I do the work of a military general? Task. Teach Hua Xiong, task description. The teacher guides students towards the future direction and teaches them as it is only natural. As children of China, we are good teachers and naturally need to take active action. Task reward. Intelligence +1, note. As a military commander, your intelligence is also too low. This system believes it is necessary to strengthen your intelligence, so the original reward has been changed. Do you want to take on this task? So what is the reward? Jianda asked curiously. Persistence enhancement. The host was originally too fast, but after the enhancement, it can be repeated for half an hour. How can you insult someone's innocence out of thin air? How fast am I? Jianda angrily said. Can you exchange the reward back? Jianda said cautiously again. No response, cut, be stingy. After finishing speaking, Jianda adjusted his clothes and walked over to Cao Cao, bowing his hand and saying. Under the command of Duke Cao, I am the chief clerk of Jianda, and I am willing to persuade enemy generals for the alliance leader. At this moment, all the feudal lords felt that they had misheard. You still act as a chief clerk like this. Is Cao Cao blind? And by the way, you can really influence me. If you can influence Hua Xiong, I'll stand upside down and have a diarrhea. At this moment, Yuan Shu below angrily rebuked. You're a small clerk, what can you do? But if you bully our army without a major general, cross it out. Cao Cao was unwilling on the spot, but Jianda is my horse. Beloved general, why bother you? So he said, calm down the anger on the highway, please let Emo give it a try. If it doesn't work, it's not too late to punish him again. Yuan Shao made a comeback at this moment. Don't harm harmony. With Mengda's recommendation, you can give it a try. Jianda bowed his hand to express his gratitude. Cao Cao asked his soldiers to bring 2 cups of warm wine to drink with Jianda, but was stopped by him. Just Hua Xiong, it's not too late to drink with the Lord when I return from my upbringing. I didn't expect Jianda to snatch the role of second master. Chapter 5. The so called Persuasion. You are listening at Novel Full Audio. Jianda walked out of the pass and saw several corpses lying quietly on the ground in front of him. He looked at two horses again, one of which was too fat to hold its limbs, indicating that it was probably Yuan Shao's beloved horse. How could such a horse go to the battlefield? Pan Feng died unjustly. Who is the one coming? A certain Hua Xiong will not slay an unknown person. Hua Xiong rode on a horse, wielding a large sword and imposing. Name. Hua Xiong, Force. 89, Command. 84, Intelligence. 55, Internal Affairs. 42, it seems that the strength of Hua Xiong is just like that of Xiahou Dun, Zhang Liao, and others. Chao Gong's chief clerk, Jianda, is also under his account. Hua Xiong couldn't help but laugh angrily when he saw that Jianda neither rode horses nor wore armor, but only lightly shook his feather fan. There was no one in the feudal lord's army, so they sent a civilian to come. If you don't come, don't leave. Be the soul of my sword. Speaking, Hua Xiong came crashing towards him. Hey, disobedient bad student. Jianda sighed slightly. The city sergeant saw this and silently shook his head, turning his head to repay. Just as the Hua Xiong steel knife was about to fall, the result was unexpected. I saw Jianda holding a big knife in one hand and pinching the horse's head in the other. Since your excellency doesn't want to listen to reason, I also have some skills in martial arts. The cold voice of Jianda reached Hua Xiong's ears. Bullying others too much. As Hua Xiong spoke, he forcefully pressed down on the steel knife to kill Jianda. Jianda's hand holding the horse's head exerted a slight force, and the horse was knocked down to the ground, and Hua Xiong also fell to the ground. Jianda walked over and grabbed Hua Xiong's neck. Before he could say anything, he twisted his hand and killed Hua Xiong. Taking a knife to chop off the head of Hua Xiong, Jianda couldn't help but shake his head and walk towards the big tent. Dragons do not sing, tigers do not howl, little Hua Xiong, it's ridiculous. Some people have a force value of 100 because their force is 100, while Jianda is different because the system stipulates that the maximum force value is only 100. The soldiers on the city wall all opened their mouths and looked incredulous. No, this civil servant. Within the military tent, Jianda threw the head of Hua Xiong to the ground. The feudal lords all took a deep breath, and some even stood up fiercely, wanting to confirm if it was Hua Xiong. Emo, didn't you go to persuade him? How could you kill this thief? Cao Cao tiptoed over to Jianda and asked in a low voice. Oh, my lord, you know me. He doesn't listen to me when I reason with him. For bad students, it will definitely boost their memory, but I didn't expect him to be so fragile. Are you intentional or careless? Intentionally. Lord, the wine is still warm. Please drink this wine together. Cao Cao touched the wine cup and it was indeed warm. At this moment, Cao Cao was even more determined to make Jianda his great general. Isn't being a civil servant a waste of time? After the messenger explained the detailed process, everyone was even more surprised as if a thunderbolt had exploded above their heads. Where did Cao Cao find such a fierce person? He is so ruthless. Could he be the half-brother of LV Bu's half-father and half-mother? Also, Cao Cao, you made him the chief clerk. Did you forget about Ding Yuan and Ding Jianyang? But ultimately, Hua Xiong was also killed, and the Sisui Pass was also broken. Yuan Shaoyi was happy and gave Jianda some rewards. The feudal lords returned to their respective camps and prepared to send troops to the Tiger Prison Pass. In Cao Cao's tent, the Xiahou brothers were paying tribute to Jianda cup by cup. Hey, I'm a Confucian scholar, I really can't handle alcohol. Jianda sat on the ground with his legs spread apart, refusing with one hand and gently shaking his feather fan with the other. Xiahou Dun looked contemptuous. Your sitting posture is even better than that of a military general. How could you look like a Confucian scholar? Brother Yue is a bit brave now. Keep working hard, and next time you go home, let's see if our Jian family is buried. Jian Wei is clearly drunk and has started talking nonsense. On that day, when he joined the army, Jian Wei also had a private confrontation with the Xiahou brothers. The result was obvious, and the two were beaten up by Jian Wei Pang. After all, the strongest Lu Bu in horse warfare and the strongest Jian Wei in infantry warfare are not just hyped up. Cao Cao saw that he was both naive and a fierce general, which was his favorite type. He quickly appointed Jian Wei as his personal guard, but he couldn't let him run away. Now Mr. Cao has both the heart of a thief and the protection of Jian Wei, so he only needs a wife. After 3 rounds of drinking, the Xiahou brothers stopped drinking and a small-looking general came to toast during the banquet. It's Le Jin. Jian Zhu Shu, congratulations on killing Hua Xiong and achieving the first merit. Le Jin looked at Jian as 9 foot tall and then at himself, shedding tears of displeasure. Jian completed the task and increased his intelligence slightly, but he didn't feel much about it himself. Perhaps it was because he added too little and didn't feel anything. So. Deep Blue, add some. Add a fart. The words of the system master echoed in Jian's mind. Jian pursed his lips and continued to drink. Boss Cao drank silently, pondering how to take down the Tiger Prison Pass. At this time, Cao Cao was still a loyal and patriotic Cao Cao, rather than the one who was disappointed with the Han dynasty in the future. The current ideal of Cao Cao is only to kill Dongzhuo, and then, with his own efforts, become the general of the expedition to the west, and seek help from the book garden www.zhaozuiyuan.com to set foot in the western regions for the great Han horse. However, Boss Cao is still too young. Emo, do you think we can really kill the old thief Dongzhuo this time? Cao Cao couldn't help but express his doubts. Lord, what do you think of the anti-Dong alliance? Nature is good. It is a great blessing for various heroes to gather here and fight against the national bandits. My lord only knows one thing, not the other. Our 18 feudal lords are all a ragtag group, each leading their own camp and harboring ulterior motives. They all want others to charge first, so they will definitely not work together. Besides, Dongzhuo's subordinates have 2 elite cavalry forces, Bingzhou and Xingyang. Perhaps our soldiers in the Kanto region can match them. Cao Cao gently stroked his beard and lowered his head in contemplation. Jian continued. Moreover, I observe that Dongzhuo is domineering and has a cholera harem. If we really attack Luoyang, then Dongzhuo will definitely move the capital before that. He even set fire to Luoyang without giving any benefit to the coalition forces. Upon hearing this, Cao Cao suddenly looked up. Mao, how could this be? My 18 marquises are about to invade Luoyang, so how dare Dongzhuo set fire to Luoyang? Besides, in my opinion, all the heroes are loyal and patriotic, so why waste others' strength? What about Yuan Shu's arrears of Sun Jian's military rations? Cao Cao remained silent and began to ponder again. Jian didn't say anything more, because now Mr. Cao still holds the idea of loyalty to the emperor and patriotism, and is not the Cao thief who everyone would hate to eat his meat and drink his blood raw in the future. Only when the fire burned Luoyang and the feudal lords fought fiercely over a piece of imperial jade seal thrown by Li Ru, could Cao Cao fully understand the ugly faces of these people. Chapter 6. Do Lu Bu in Hulao Pass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The tiger prison was closed, and the big flag with the character Dong fluttered in the wind. The fierce soldiers of the Western Liang controlled the pass, and a sense of solemnity rushed towards them. On top of the pass, a grand tutor's chair was placed in a row, with fierce guards on both sides and beautiful concubines dancing in anticipation of a smile from the emperor. On the grand tutor's chair, there is an old man. The old man was wild and unrestrained, with a fierce face, a fat body, and a beard all over his face, displaying the vicissitudes of conquering cities and territories. Wearing a gorgeous outfit, it further highlights the dignity of one's current identity. Beautiful and beautiful Ji sat quietly in Dong Zhuo's arms. Like a blooming peony, charming and stunning. Dong Zhuo's hand gently caressed her delicate hair, his eyes filled with evil thoughts and desires. Beside Dong Zhuo, there was a graceful Confucian scholar gently swaying his feather fan. This person is the son-in-law of Dong Zhuo. Li Ru. Li Ru was also considered a strategist who devoted himself wholeheartedly to Dong Zhuo, offering advice and suggestions. He first opposed Liu Bian and then lured Lv Bu, dedicating himself wholeheartedly to Dong Zhuo's power and died later. At this time, Dong Zhuo held a 150,000-strong army in his hands and defended the Hulao Pass with Fan Chou, Lv Bu, Zhang Ji, Li Ru, and others. I see all the armies in the Kanto region as if the earth is crumbling and tiles are dogs, so I can easily strike them. Dong Zhuo was on the Grand Tutor's chair, playing with Meiji with one hand and pointing to the mountains and rivers with the other. Li Ru slightly arched his hand and whispered. My father-in-law, I see that everyone in this coalition army is divided and has ulterior motives. Moreover, we have a 150,000-strong army and a formidable general like Lv Bu. It is not a problem for us to defend the Tiger Prison. Yuan Shao, you really think that becoming the leader of the alliance would be unbearable? As a small member of the Yuan family, I can easily kill them with just a few words. At this moment, Li Ru did not speak up because he knew that the Yuan family could not be touched. In front of Hulao Pass, the generals of the coalition army are facing off against the iron cavalry of Xingyang in front of the camp. Under Jianda's crotch, thousands of miles of smoke illuminated the clouds. The drum-beating jar and golden hammer were placed on the horse's back, and the gilded hammer emitted bursts of golden light with extraordinary expression. However, at this moment, Jianda was staring at the scene in front of him, unable to take his eyes off. A fierce general appeared in front of the Xingyang iron cavalry. That person is wearing a purple gold crown with 3 forked hair, wearing a Sichuan red brocade robe with 100 flowers, wearing a beast face swallowing head chain armor, and wearing a linglong lion mane belt with armor around his waist, carrying a bow and arrow, holding a painted halberd, sitting down. The red BMW looked extraordinary. It is precisely Lu Bu and Lu Fengxian in the phrase, Lu Bu in the human race, Lu Bu in the horse race. Name. Lv Bu, Force. 100, Command. 91, Intelligence. 44, Internal Affairs. 32, Truly worthy of being Lu Bu. Jianda couldn't help but secretly sigh as he looked at the 100 points of his strength. You can say that others are like Lu Bu, horses are like red rabbits, and Fang Tian draws a halberd to specifically stab his adoptive father, but you cannot say that he is not fierce. When Guaniri attacked Lv Bu, he couldn't do it. After Lv Bu died, it would seem that everyone was the leader of the price tag. Moreover, after Lu Bu's death, anyone with extraordinary military strength would praise him, saying that this person is no less brave than Lu Bu. This proves that regardless of Lu Bu's character, this force is recognized by everyone. Jian Wei beside Jianda saw that Jianda was secretly lost in thought and said, Little brother, do you have any confidence in fighting against this Lv Bu? I haven't fought before, I don't know, but if I really meet you, let's say at least 5 or 5. During his speech, the famous general in Hanoi, Fang Yu, was cut off by the formation. Mu Shan, a subordinate of the Shandong prefect Zhongying, was no match for a single halberd. Kong Rong from Beihai was under the command of Wuanhua, but after more than 10 rounds, his wrist was overturned and he abandoned his hammer and left. Is there no one among the coalition forces? Lu Bu laughed up to the sky, feeling extremely proud. At this moment, General Gong Sun Zan of the White Horse came to try, but after only 10 attempts, he was defeated and pursued by Lv Bu, but was stopped. This person has a leopard head and eyes, a tiger beard standing upright, and holds a 10-foot-8 snake spear in his hand. The 3 surnames of domestic slaves should not be rampant. Zhang Yida, a native of Yen, is here. Zhang Fei slapped his horse with a spear and engaged in a fight with LV Bu, boosting his spirits to the point where he was on par with LV Bu. But as Dian De and Dian Wei and others could see, Lu Bu still had some strength left, while Zhang Fei was already exhausted at this time. Little LV Bu, don't harm the 3rd brother of a certain family. Obviously, Guan Yu also saw the situation and came forward to help. The 82-pound green dragon moon blade is driven like an arm, waving like the wind. 2 people engaged in a pincer attack, and 3 war horses fought in a T-dot shape. Even if they fought together, they could not defeat Lu Bu. At this moment, the Xiahou brothers had already galloped up to Dianda's side, stunned. Is there really a divine being in this world? I see that both Guan Yu and Zhang Fei are fierce generals, fighting together but only maintaining a balance. However, 10 times later, Liu Bei rushed forward on horseback and joined the chaotic battle. His male and female dual-wielded swords were as agile as snakes, and the 3 of them worked together to suppress Lu Bu. However, it is unknown whether LV Bu was activated by such a situation or something, and surprisingly, he became more and more brave in battle, causing Lu Guan and Zhang to fall into a decline again. Should Imo come forward and give it a try? Xiahou Yuan turned his head and asked. If you're willing, I'll break through the game with an arrow and let you fight alone. Jianda is naturally unwilling. He is a great strategist, how can he fight and kill all day long? How about I make a bet with you? Jianda couldn't help but furrow his brows as he looked at Xiahou Yuan's eerie expression. Do you know that I have a niece named Xiahou Wan? My niece is gentle and amiable. If you win over LV Bu, I will betroth her to you. Damn it, brother, you're going to give me 3rd Lord Xiahou Wan. Will the 3rd Lord of Time and Space kill me? Just as Jianda hesitated, task. Discussing the Tao of Lu Bu, task description. Master teaches Confucianism, and 3,000 disciples sit and listen. Today, there is Lu Bu, but few have listened to Master's teachings. I hope the host can discuss the Tao with him. Task reward. Clues of a future event, do you accept this task? Accept. How about it? Xiahou Yuan tilted his head and asked. I volunteered to have a fight with Nalu Bu, as for the bet, jokingly. Jianda smiled and laughed, jokingly, this niece of Xiahou Yuan is still a student today. I have been starting for at least 3 years now. Boss Cao still has a foresight. Jianda rode away with his horse, while the thin and weak body of the clouds illuminated by the smoke from thousands of miles was carrying a 9-foot-tall man like Jianda. He looked very strange, but seeing the rapid pace, everyone couldn't help but sigh with a divine horse. Xiahou Yuan held a carved bow, which was 1 or 3 stone bows. With this bow in his hand, Xiahou Yuan hit 100 shots and killed countless enemy soldiers. At this moment, Xiahou Yuan was holding arrows and his eyes were like eagles and falcons, setting up a carved bow. Suddenly, Xiahou Yuan let go of his finger, his bowstring trembled violently, and his arrows shot out like shooting stars. The arrows cut through the air, making a sharp whistling sound as if tearing apart the silent sky. In an instant, the arrow crossed the sky and headed straight for Lu Bu. At this moment, LV Bu, who was fighting with Lu Guanzhang and the other 3, seemed to foresee danger. Fang Tian drew a halberd across his neck to block the feather arrow. But what followed was a gilded sledgehammer, which collided fiercely with Fang Tianhua's halberd, causing LV Bu's tiger mouth to almost shake off. I saw Lu Bu release his strength and pull open, only then did he see Jianda in front of him. Lu Guanzhang had already left the formation, and by this time the 3 of them were exhausted. If the battle continued, they would inevitably be defeated. Who will you bring? LV Bu squinted his eyes slightly, holding the reins in one hand and tightly grasping the Fangtian painting halberd in the other. Whether in Bingzhou or now in the Central Plains, he had never seen anyone who could exert such pressure on him. You should know that Lu Bu is known for his strength, but just now he almost let go, which is enough to show the great power of Jade. The chief clerk under the account of Duke Cao is the code of virtue, code of righteousness, and strategy. Jade had already handed over the feather fan to Jian Wei, while holding the double hammer himself. I was about to carry a hammer onto my shoulder, but I felt it was against the Confucian style, so I held the hammer in both hands. Is it also a ledger? My former adoptive father made me the chief clerk, and Cao Cao also made such a fierce person the chief clerk. Is it popular nowadays to have a fierce general as the chief clerk? So I blamed my former adoptive father wrongly. Lu Bu shook his head and looked for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. He didn't want to do so much, but he became tense and confronted Jade. I am a disciple of Confucianism and can be said to have been passed down by my master. Today, I will preach to you, the thief. After speaking, Jade galloped forward with his horse, pounding the drum, jar, and golden hammer with great force, directly hitting Lu Bu's head. Lu Bu Fangtian drew a silver line with his halberd and slashed heavily towards Jade. Suddenly, the handover of gold and silver was overwhelming. Only listen to the sound of the sound. Lu Bu collided with Jade's hammer and halberd, almost sparking. At this moment, Jade's tiger mouth was slightly numb, and he didn't expect that the power of Lv Bu was no less than that of Li Yuanbao. Hammers and halberds intersect, and there are dozens of rounds between lightning, fire, and stones. Within the coalition, the lords saw this situation and their morale was greatly boosted, with the sound of drums becoming louder and louder. Liu Bei, who was resting, stared closely at Jade, thinking that if he could obtain this fierce general, he would not worry about achieving great success. Xiahou brothers, Jian Wei was staring intently at the battle between the two generals. Cao Cao was satisfied, and a faint smile hung on Xiahou's face, silently reciting in his heart. You are worthy of my fierce general. Kong Rong looked at the person wearing a Confucian robe and holding a double hammer, feeling a little puzzled in his heart. Yuan Shu's eyes were sinister, his fingers clenched slightly, and he only wished that such a lowly person could speak freely here. Dong Zhuo was shocked as he closed the door, sighing that there were still such tiger generals in the world, and wondering if he could accept them as his adopted son. Lu Bu was sweating profusely, but he dared not give up. In his heart, there was only one belief. The fierce general of the world, who would give up on me? My heart suddenly became bold, and the Fang Tian Hua Ji in my hand danced more and more fiercely, with increasing strength. With the roar of the Jade hammer, he remained calm in the face of Lv Bu. Since he was the chief clerk, he must be the strongest chief clerk in the world. We cannot embarrass Confucius. Chapter 7. Dong Zhongying burning Luoyang and moving the capital to Chang'an. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jade and Lu Bu each came crashing their horses, their hammers and halberds roaring, and the ferocious sound of metal was all eye-catching. The two of them have already fought for a lily, and are not yet exhausted, even accelerating their strength, like divine beings. Jade gritted his teeth and persisted, unable to help but curse inwardly. No, why are you playing with your life without a salary? At this moment, Lu Bu was also panting heavily and felt that this Jade's brain was somewhat seriously ill. Dude, aren't you going to reason with me? Why are you holding a hammer? Jade clenched his horse's belly and began to change his routine by beating the drum, jar, and golden hammer in his hand. From the original heavy momentum to one blow after another, the sound of metal collision was almost uninterrupted, as if a divine person was beating the drum. Lu Bu's face was grim, and in his hand, Fang Tianhua's halberd retreated step by step. The red rabbit and horse under his crotch also stepped out of the shallow pit due to the repeated blows of the beating drum jar's golden hammer. Just as Lv Bu was still mechanically defending, Jade suddenly let Wanli Yan Zhaoyun raise his front hooves and hit the golden hammer with a drum-beating jar in his hand. The sound of breaking through the air was accompanied by anger, and the gilded hammer smashed at LV Bu with an unstoppable momentum. Bang! The red rabbit horse almost knelt on the ground, and LV Bu's tiger mouth was already splattered with blood, but he still gritted his teeth and persisted, gripping Feng Tianhua's halberd tightly with both hands. At this point, LV Bu was already at the end of his strong crossbow. As the saying goes, if he works hard, he will eventually decline and eventually exhaust himself. Lu Bu wanted to break open this big hammer in one breath. In an instant, Jade's other sledgehammer had already reached Lu Bu's side, but Lu Bu was unable to defend himself. Draw a halberd in your hand from horizontal to vertical, use skillful force to break the hammer, hold the reins, and turn your head to escape. If it weren't for taking a breath in an instant just now, LV Bu would have been lying on the ground, motionless. The tiger prison was closed, and Dong Zhuohu's eyes were wide open, his face full of disbelief. His mouth was slightly open, and his fingers pointed towards Jade under the prison, trembling slightly. Lu Bu was actually beaten and defeated. In theory, Dong Zhuo should not show such an ugly demeanor at this time. Such an ugly demeanor would only make the morale of the soldiers in the Western Liang even lower, but Dong Zhuo could not care about so much. That's Lu Bu. Just now, the formation beheaded Fang Yu, Mu Shan, deposed Chuanguo, and fought 3 heroes in a row. At that time, they fought against LV Bu, who made his Western Liang iron cavalry unable to lift their heads. Wen Yu, whose general is this? Li Ru had already walked over to support Dong Zhuo, and as he looked at the situation before him, he couldn't help but sigh. I just heard this person say he is the chief clerk under Cao Cao's account. They are all chief secretaries, and Cao Cao is so ignorant of fierce generals. Li Ru, however, ignored the answer and only ordered the soldiers of Xingyang to surrender their troops. Yuan Shao originally intended to take advantage of the great victory and lead troops to break through Hulao Pass. Immediately after, Cao Cao arched his hand and stepped out, admonishing. At the beginning, the Hulao Pass was magnificent and dangerous, with the city walls standing tens of zhang high and the Western Liang armies rolling wood and stones. If our coalition wants to break through the Hulao Pass, the losses will inevitably be heavy. Upon hearing that attacking the Tiger Prison Pass would result in heavy losses, Yuan Shao also put aside the idea of attacking, as he did not want to damage much strength at this time. And the other feudal lords each had their own thoughts and refused to contribute, so the pursuit of victory came to an end. Within the Tiger Prison Pass, Dong Zhuo sat in the main seat, while Li Ru sat below the main seat. Dong Zhuo's face was very gloomy at this moment, as if there were signs of anger. But he also knew the weight of the matter, so he asked Li Ru what to do. Just because there were no outsiders at this moment, and Li Ru had no formalities, he said directly. Now that Marquis Wen has been defeated and our Western Liang army's morale has been shattered, it's better to lead troops back to Luoyang and move the capital to Chang'an. Oh, why did you say this? Dong Zhuo was also puzzled when he heard it. After all, moving the capital is not a small matter. Li Ru was not in a hurry and spoke slowly for Dong Zhuo. Recently, there is a nursery rhyme that goes, there is a Han in the west and a Han in the east. Only when a deer enters Chang'an can there be no difficulties. I think of one Han in the west, which means that Emperor Gaozu should prosper in the western capital of Chang'an and pass down 1 to 12 emperors, one Han in the east, which means that Guanwu should prosper in the eastern capital of Luoyang, and now it is also passed down 1 to 12 emperors. In accordance with the fate, the Father.in.law should move the capital of Chang'an, comply with the fate above, and comply with the hearts of the people below, ensuring worry-free life. Okay, with just one word of concern, we can defeat thousands of soldiers and horses. Under the starry night, Dong Zhuo led his troops back to Luoyang and gathered in the court to discuss the relocation of the capital. No way, Grand Tutor. I have been the capital of the great Han dynasty for 200 years. Isn't it just a matter of accommodating and relocating? Grand Tutor, please think twice and move the capital easily. The foundation of the country is not solid. Several ministers were excited and began to advise Dongzhuo. Today, it's not a discussion, but a notice that I, Dongzhuo, want to move the capital. Dongzhuo's expression turned cold and he glanced at the minister with a slanted gaze. On the dragon chair, Emperor Xian of Han, Lu Xie, trembled and dared not speak much. Some ministers saw that their advice was ineffective, so they cursed Dongzhuo loudly. Dongzhuo just waved his hand, and the soldiers of the Western Luoyang army ran to the main hall, drew their swords and killed, staining the court with blood. After killing a few people, the opposition in the court greatly decreased, and most of the courtiers had a thin layer of sweat oozing from their foreheads and remained silent. Xianghua, the city is full of wealthy merchants who have been cut off. Please take a look. Under the hall, Li and Guosi were divided into left and right sides, holding books, all of which were wealthy merchants in Luoyang city. He was falsely accused by Dongzhuo and exiled due to home theft. The city of Luoyang is littered with corpses, like hell. And the imperial mausoleum near Luoyang was also brutally murdered, being excavated by Dongzhuo's subordinates, and even the ancestral tombs of civil and military officials were not spared. Dongzhuo is going to plunder all the money in Luoyang and bring it to Chang'an. Dongzhuo clapped his legs and laughed, then ordered. Li and Guosi, order you two to drive the people of Luoyang to Chang'an. During this time, a group of people and soldiers will drag each other, and anyone who resists or delays their journey will be executed. Li Jingguosi clenched his fists and took orders to withdraw from the main hall. Where is my son Fengxian? His Highness LV Bu took a step left and approached the Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, clasping his fists and saying in a deep voice. Lu Bu is here. Lu Bu, I order you and 30,000 elite soldiers from Xingyang to rush to Xingyang and help Su Rong defend the city to prevent the bandits from attacking our army. Only. LV Bu arched his hand, calmly responded, and turned his head to leave the main hall. Instructions were issued one after another, and in the end, Li Ru, along with civil and military officials and their families, began to evacuate Luoyang. Before leaving, Dongzhuo ordered his soldiers to set fire to various gates, burn down residential houses, and set fire to ancestral temples and palaces. The north and south palaces are connected by flames, the Chang'an Palace is a scorched earth. If you stand at the highest point, you should see that Luoyang is full of ruins, and the people's screams are continuous. It can be said that it is a living human purgatory. On the other hand, the various armies in the Kanto region sang and danced, holding banquets to celebrate the great defeat of Dongzhuo. Jianda is in a corner, click on the system reward. Task completed, task reward. Clues of a future event, do you want to use it? Jianda silently recites and uses it in his heart. Successfully used. Event. Kai Yan is captured by the Xiongnu, location. 100 miles north of Xingyang city, time of occurrence. Within 2 days, Kai Wenji. In this life, I will definitely not let your scholarly family suffer from the Xiongnu. Jianda murmured. Now, it's time to set fire to Luoyang. Jianda shook his head and drank with a bitter smile. The next day, looking at the fiery sky in the north, shrouded in smoke, Cao Cao's heart sank. I really let Imo guess. Dong thief, how dare you set fire to Luoyang? Cao Cao clenched the wine bottle in his hand, gritting his teeth as if he was about to crush it. Chapter 8. The Great Defeat of Xingyang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Allied forces were all shocked and they saw the direction of Luoyang turning red. They quickly stopped the banquet and prepared to lead their troops to Luoyang. However, in an hour, the army marched to Luoyang, only to see the towering ancient capital of 200 years. Now, with broken walls and ruins, flames engulfed the sky, and black smoke engulfed the earth. The city was littered with corpses of the people, and for 200 or 300 miles, there was no sight of chickens, dogs, or people. Sun Jian dispatched troops first to extinguish the fire. The feudal lords set up camp on the wasteland and reorganized their troops. Cao Cao arched his hand and advised. Now that the bandits are fleeing and there is no solid city, why not seize the opportunity to pursue them? Why didn't they hold their ground at the beginning? Alas, Mengde, our armies have been running around for hours, and now they are very tired and unable to pursue us. Dong's bandits burned the palace, robbed and relocated the emperor, causing a stir in the sea. This day, Dong is about to be killed. If this battle is won, the world will be peaceful. Why don't the lords march to attack Dong? Most feudal lords said they should strike steadily and not pursue lightly. Cao Cao was furious and stopped advising. He personally led more than 5,000 troops to pursue Dongzhuo. Approaching the dental arch, Cao Cao was stopped by Bao Xian. Bao Xian stuffed a tiger talisman into Cao Cao's hand. Mengde, they won't help you. I'll help you. These are my 500 elite cavalry. Now that I have more than enough heart and less strength, these troops and horses are just some of my intentions. Cao Cao's eyes turned red, and he held on to Bao Xian's hand with both hands, as if he had 1,000 words to say, but in the end he didn't say anything. He clenched his fists in gratitude and strode away. Jade knew it was impossible to persuade Cao Cao, so he grabbed Xiao Hong and whispered. Zilian, if Dong Thief escapes, he will definitely send LV Bu to lead the army to intercept. I guess there will be danger in the Lord's deployment this time. You must protect the Lord. Xiao Hong nodded solemnly, knowing that this march was not easy. Brother, I've already told you the method, it's up to you to handle what you're not sure about. Boss Xiao Hong, my brother Jian Wei, plus me, 3 layers of insurance, this pursuit must be safe. During the pursuit, Cao Cao felt the slow speed of the pursuit, so he divided out 1,000 elite cavalry and led these more than 1,000 people, along with the Xiahou brothers, Jianwei, Jiande, Cao Chun, and Xiao Hong, to gallop towards Xingyang. Thousands of cavalry charged and rampaged along the way, passing the level and killing the generals. Along the way, all the soldiers of the Western Yang army were killed without leaving a trace. Along the way, the corpses of the common people were in different places, and the slightly attractive women were raped first and then killed. The corpses on the ground were as numerous as cattle's hair. The more he pursued Dongzhuo, the more he could see such a situation. Cao Cao gritted his teeth and his eyes were about to crack. Dong Thief, if you don't behead me, I will be a useless minister. After chasing for more than 20 miles, Cao Cao and his group had arrived at Binshui in Xingyang. They saw dense mountains and forests on both sides of this place, which was a good place to ambush. Cao Cao had already shifted from impulsiveness to calmness. Seeing this terrain, he quickly ordered the army to retreat. The mountains and forests are shrouded in smoke and clouds, and the sound of horse hooves quietly rings. Cao Cao, do you know your grandfather Su? In the mountains and forests, a shout of anger came. I saw a person wearing black armor, holding a long spear, with a serious face and a firm gaze, charging towards me with the Xingyang divine horse under his crotch. Following closely behind are thousands of Xingyang iron cavalry lurking in the mountains and forests on both sides. It should be noted that in ancient times, cavalry played a crucial role in warfare, and it can even be said that having a strong cavalry unit was equivalent to achieving half of the victory in war. The cavalry charged towards the enemy, which was why the Great Han could not capture the Xiongnu for a long time. The grassland is so vast, only highly mobile cavalry is the king's way. The Sodat called infantry and crossbowmen are just live targets for cavalry to charge back and forth. In the Central Plains, the most elite cavalry is nothing more than the Iron Cavalry of Xingyang, and the Wolf Cavalry of Bingzhou and the White Horse of Yuzhou have followed suit. The cavalry of Boss Cao is not enough to be hit by the iron cavalry of Xingyang. Cao Cao's face turned white and he was shocked. My life is at rest. Su Rong led the most elite Xingyang iron cavalry to charge straight towards Cao Cao, chiseling open layers of cavalry. The screams on the battlefield were mixed with bloodstains, and blood splattered everywhere Su Rong went. Although Cao Cao was surrounded by Cao Hong and Dian Wei, seeing Su Rong's fierce appearance still frightened him. Although Dienda was not by Mr. Chao's side at this time, he was also not far away. As a strategist, it was his principle not to take action easily. Just in case, he stayed here, able to observe the enemy and coordinate with Cao Cao. In case he was really rushed forward by that old boy Su Rong, Dienda would lead Cao Boss to run away in a hurry. On the other side, Xiahou Dun and Xiahou Yuan, the two brothers, were bravely killing the enemy. At least half of the cavalry of over 1,000 people belonged to him. At this time, only they could inspire and prevent the morale of the army from collapsing. However, after a few breaths, Su Rong swept away the Cao army beside him, wielding a reins and a spear, with a fierce gaze towards Cao Cao. Cao Hong's forehead dripped with a thin sweat, and he clenched his plain knife in his hand. Thinking of what Dienda had told him before, he let his heart skip a beat and loudly said. Dian Wei, take your elder brother and leave first. I'll be the queen here. The bandits are approaching, what will you do, Zillian? This world can be without me, Cao Zillian, but it cannot be without you, big brother. Big brother, this chaotic world needs you to calm it down. Cao Hong stood up and mounted his horse, his eyes fierce and his face fierce. He wielded a simple knife with a murderous aura, and approached Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com to clamp onto his horse's belly, galloping towards Su Rong. When Su Rong saw Cao Hong rushing towards him, he didn't dodge and flew his horse towards Cao Hong. Park Knife faced the long spear, and both of them were unreserved, with a strong will to die. As a result, they fought harder and harder. In no time, they had already formed more than 30 alliances. At the moment when the two were deadlocked, a distant Xingyang iron cavalry immediately stopped and drew a bow to draw an arrow. With a swoosh, the arrows rushed straight towards Cao Hong. Cao Hong bent down to dodge. In that moment, Su Rong seized the loophole and lifted Cao Hong to the ground. Just as he was about to commit murder with a spear, Xiahou Dun in the distance glared angrily and shouted. Thieves, how dare you! Su Rong was stunned for a moment, then turned his head and realized that it was not Cao Hong in front of him, but a hammer shadow. With a loud bang, Su Rong's face was completely unrecognizable, his brain burst open, and red and white objects scattered on the ground. It turned out that Dienda came to rescue us. To be honest, Dienda really doesn't want to take action. After all, he keeps taking action and makes others think he's not a strategist but a warrior. Also, my hammer is dirty, Su Rong, you want to compensate me. Dienda pulled Cao Hong up, helped him onto his horse, and instructed him to follow him. Cao Hong slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and his shoulders relaxed accordingly. I almost got into the gates of hell just now. Zillian, follow me to find the Lord. We should withdraw now. The two of them retreated and killed while merging with Xiahou Dun and Xiahou Yuan, totaling more than 200 cavalry, finally clearing a path of blood. As they walked towards Bianshui not far away, they finally saw the shadow of Cao Cao. By the river, Dian Wei's face was covered in blood, his cloth armor was also cut to pieces, and he lay panting on the ground to rest. Cao Cao picked up a strand of clean water by the river and washed his face. Big brother. Master. Chapter 9. Cai Zhaoji. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dienda and his group ran to the Bian River and met Cao Cao, feeling both sad and happy. Now, under the Bian River, the two brothers Cao Cao and Xiahou have gathered over 300 riders. Boss Chao's heart is dripping with blood. In ancient times, it was very difficult to form a cavalry. Firstly, horses were a problem, and only the 800 private soldiers brought by Xiahou done under Cao Cao's command were cavalry. He just left 300 cavalry for Li Jin and Li Dian, and now he only has over 300 cavalry left. In World War I, he lost nearly 700 cavalry, which can be said to be a disastrous defeat. This wave has returned to before liberation. Jade briefly explained what happened after Cao Cao left, and only then did Cao Cao's eyes slowly sparkle. I didn't expect Dong thief subordinates to have Su Rong as a talented general. In the future, we need to plan more carefully and not act impulsively. Cao Cao couldn't help but sigh. Cao Cao is always like this. He will never cry after a defeat, only summarize his experience alone and strive to avoid making mistakes in the future. This is also one of the reasons why Jade believed that Cao Cao could succeed. After the defeat in the Battle of Red Cliffs, hundreds of thousands of troops were set on fire, and even Su Chu, who was struggling, began to cry. Cao Cao also comforted Su Chu with joy and encouraged his morale even as everyone was on the brink of collapse. How can an ordinary person have such composure? As he spoke, Li Jin and Li Dian also rushed with the remaining parts, and Cao Cao finally breathed a sigh of relief. Jade saw that he was completely safe at this moment, and thought of Cai Yan being kidnapped by the Xiongnu in his heart. He arched his hand and said, "Lord, during the chaotic battle just now, I saw Xiongnu cavalry passing by. I want to lead over 100 cavalry to investigate. Damn the Xiongnu people, we Han dynasty wanted to profit from the chaos." The generals had a pale complexion and a chilling look in their eyes. Cao Cao clearly took this matter for granted, but he would definitely get angry every time he heard about it. Finally, Cao Cao gave Jade 300 elite cavalry. Jade led 300 elite cavalry, and when encountering enemy troops on the way, he executed them. Along the way, he also killed many Xingyang iron cavalry. According to the location indicated by the system, Jade arrived 50 miles north of Xingyang city. 300 elite cavalry ambushed between the mountains and forests, waiting for an opportunity to move. However, in half an hour, dust was flying in the distance, and the sound of horse hooves gradually became clear. Sure enough, I saw dozens of Xiongnu people slowly moving around a carriage, followed by dozens of Han people who were being kidnapped. These Han people, dressed in rags and broken pieces, revealed their thin and weak bodies and skin that turned purple from cold. Their figures trembled in the cold wind, like withered leaves abandoned in the wilderness. Their faces were filled with pain and struggle, tears had long dried up, leaving only endless sorrow and sorrow. They were forced to endure the whipping and insults of the Xiongnu, enduring the torment of hunger and cold. Watching these despicable Han compatriots tormented by the Xiongnu, Jade couldn't help but grit his teeth and angrily say, "I am 8 o'clock in the morning. Little Xiongnu dogs, they are not of our race, and their hearts will always be different. When I tidy up the old mountains and rivers, I will definitely make you perish and exterminate your country." Jade observed for a while and saw the two Xiongnu cavalry in the row loudly talking something. Because it is Xiongnu language, Jade cannot understand it. However, system, translate for me. He, has the host also requested this system now? Then I mercifully agreed. Translation begins, brother, this time we have gained a lot. Of course, but this is just the beginning. We need to bring the wealth of the Central Plains to the grasslands bit by bit. I think this Han Chinese woman is quite delicate and beautiful, but I don't know. How is it? Don't be fooled by her ideas. This is what we offer to the king, this is the king's woman. It seems that Cai Yan and Cai Zhaoji are in this carriage. The talented woman of the great Han, unfortunately her husband is a short-lived ghost and was recognized by the Wei family as a disaster star, which killed Wei Zhongdao. Later, she was adopted as a concubine by the left-wise king of the Xiongnu, gave birth to 2 children, wandered around for 12 years, returned to the Han dynasty, and was also married by Cao Cao to the despicable and useless Dong Si. What a pity. Jianda touched his chin and ordered all the soldiers to draw their bows and arrows, waiting for the opportunity. At this moment, Jianda was standing tall and watching as this group of Xiongnu cavalry was about to reach the middle. Jianda waved his feather fan and pointed directly at the Xiongnu cavalry. Shoot arrows. 300 elite riders tightened the bowstring without hesitation. The arrows poured out like a rainstorm, breaking through the sky and shooting at the enemy with the sharp wind. The Xiongnu cavalry were caught off guard, their formation was chaotic, and their horses were overturned, with screams echoing one after another. Don't accidentally harm our Han family's children. The Xiongnu must be completely annihilated. Soldiers, rush over. Immediately after, 300 cavalry mounted their horses and charged forward, spearing like dragons as they set sail, piercing straight into the enemy's formation. Their cries were earth-shattering, intertwined with the sound of horse hooves. The cavalry charged into formation, and the scene was very spectacular. Dede is leisurely and contented, gently shaking the feather fan. Thinking that I have finally commanded a large army to fight, I have taken another big step towards the mastermind. Shortly thereafter, all the Xiongnu cavalry were executed. Jianda rode 1,000 miles of smoke to illuminate the clouds, and the drum jar and golden hammer behind the horse's buttocks swayed slightly, rushing towards the carriage. General, fortunately we have not lived up to our fate. We have completely annihilated the Xiongnu. Jianda squinted his eyes. It seems that you don't really want to improve, kid. How many times have you said it? I am the chief clerk under Cao Gong's account. Remember to call me position when working in the future. Puff. Yes, remember General. The cavalry soldier struggled to suppress his smile. I really don't laugh unless I can't help it. These days, no one knows that Jianda is holding Hua Xiong with one hand and using two hammers to confront the enemy Lu Bu. The reputation of Jianda has long been awe-inspiring in the campaign against Dong Lianjuan. Jianda looked at the cavalry soldier with a slight frown. Okay, I'm looking for a book garden at www.zhaozuiyuan.com and would like to try my conquering people with virtue, right? May I ask who the general is? A crisp cry came from the nearby carriage. They all said I'm a military officer. Forget it, I don't care anymore. I'll just show it off. I saw two people walking down from the carriage. A person's eyes are like autumn water, with fair and delicate skin, elegant posture, and a calm and composed demeanor, exuding a deep and introverted beauty. The other person has a petite figure, but it is very symmetrical, giving people a sense of health and vitality. Their hair is neat and soft, with a faint luster. Bright and lively eyes. It seems that this is Cai Zhaoji and her maid. I saw the maid take a few steps forward and make a gentle bow. Thank you very much for your help, General. My young lady is the daughter of Cai Yong and the Cai family. Who is General? Jianda arched his hand and saluted, then whispered. Cao Gong's chief clerk, Jianda, is also under his account. But the subordinates of senior brother Cao? Cai Zhaoji urgently asked. Exactly. May I ask Miss Cai, do you know where everyone Cai is? My father originally went to Chang'an with my concubine, but on the way, he was robbed by the Xiongnu people. My father wanted to save my concubine, but the Western Liang army only urged her to advance, and my concubine was kidnapped by the Xiongnu people. Jianda nodded and said, Miss, please return to the horse carriage with your maid, and I will take Miss to meet my lord. Cai Wenji responded with a gift. Thank you very much, General. Jianda handed over the remaining tattooed silver in his hands to these refugees, hoping that they could use this silver to start a new life. Immediately, he led these cavalry soldiers to escort Cai Yan towards the camp outside Luoyang. Chapter 10. The Jade Seal of Chuanguo. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Turning around, it's already evening. The sun is clocking in at the edge of the sky and doing handover work with the moon. At this moment, the feudal lords looked at the dilapidated city of Luoyang, with the flames shining brightly inside the tent, but they could not warm their hearts. Cao Cao was standing outside the gate, waiting for Jiande. Jian Wei stood beside him, like a mountain guarding Cao Cao. Xiahou Dun walked up to Cao Cao and draped his cloak over him, warning him with a mournful voice. "Big brother, let's go back to camp. This winter is so cold, you've been waiting here for 3 hours already." Cao Cao rubbed his hands, breathed a sigh, and looked out into the distance, whispering softly. "No, I want Imo to see me as soon as he comes back." The sound of horse hooves slowly came from the horizon, and many figures in the distance kept getting closer. Cai Yan and his maid successfully arrived at the camp under the protection of Jiande. Seeing Jiande, Cao Cao's suspended heart slowly calmed down. "My lord, I am fortunate enough to not betray my fate. I have completely slain the Xiongnu and saved the Han people." Jiande dismounted from his horse and saluted. Just come back, just come back. Lord, during this rescue, the also saved an old friend of Lord. Cao Cao's face showed a puzzled expression. Just as Cao Cao was puzzled, Cai Yan got off the carriage and bowed to him when he saw him. Zhaoji has met senior brother Cao. Cao Cao's face was full of surprise, followed by some movement and a slight tremble in his arms. Zhaoji, I didn't expect to see you again. Where is the teacher now? My father has accompanied Dongzhua to Chang'an. Fortunately, there was a general present, otherwise Zhaoji would have been kidnapped. No problem, no problem. We will definitely rescue your father in the future. Now that my junior sister is tired from traveling, please rest for now. Cai Yan bowed and thanked him. Suddenly, Cao Cao's eyes rolled between Jiande and Cai Yan, and he chuckled. Cao Cao summoned Xiahou Yuan and whispered, "Miao Kai, please arrange a tent for my junior sister Kai and remember to arrange it with Imao." Cao Cao secretly rejoiced at this moment. "Imo, I have already taken care of all your life matters for you, old Cao. When the time comes, Xiao Cai Yan will take care of you one by one, with generals in chief and generals short. You won't be fascinated. You can honestly become a general for me." And Xiahou Yuan "No, big brother. Aren't you particular about first come, first served? My niece hasn't married Imo yet. But who made Boss Cao the big brother?" Xiahou Yuan could only do it quietly. Cao Cao took Jiande to the great tent. "Imo, I have prepared a surprise for you, so please enjoy it." Old Chao's chrysanthemum face smiled contemptuously. Jiande feels a bit inexplicable. "Master, let's quickly pack up and prepare to leave." Jiande felt that Sun Jian had already picked up the jade seal from the well, which had been smashed by Wang Mang with a small corner. "Imo, what happened?" At this moment, Mr. Cao was like a monk who couldn't figure it out. "I guess after Li Ru set fire to Luoyang, he will leave something behind to disintegrate the coalition army, making it impossible for us to attack Dong." "What is it?" Jiande took a soft puff of turbid air and slowly said. "Chuanguo Yushi." Suddenly, Cao Cao was taken aback for a moment, and he let out a short and spasmodic breath. His little black face turned slightly white and he stopped as if taking root. "Spread. Spread the national jade seal. It's really fake. It must be true." Cao Cao's face turned red, indicating a stir in his heart. Anyone who hears the imperial jade seal will not calm down. That's a national jade seal. Appointed by heaven, one will live forever. This represents the fortune of the Han dynasty, and it is precisely this object that justifies the existence of the Han dynasty. Jiande lay aimlessly on the ground. To be honest, as a man who has been tested by the party and the country, he really has no interest in the broken stone of the imperial seal. However, looking at Boss Chao's excited expression, it is imaginable that other feudal lords were crazy when they heard this news. Just as Cao Cao was secretly excited, the big tent was opened by someone. Xiahou Dun walked up quickly, his face solemn. Big brother, Sun Jian from Changsha actually found the jade seal of Chuanguo in the well. Boom. If it were just his imagination, now it is reality. He suppressed his desire to snatch the jade seal. Immediately after, Xiahou Dun's voice continued to ring. Upon hearing this, all the feudal lords had ulterior motives, and among them, Yuan Shao and Yuan Shu were the most urgent. Now Sun Jian has been summoned to the grand tent for questioning. Let's go take a look too. Within the coalition tent, Yuan Shao sat in the upper position, Yuan Shu occupied the left, and Sun Jian was in the hall. Yuan Shu suddenly patted the table and said sternly. Sun Jian, how dare you hide the imperial jade seal without authorization? Hand it over quickly. Sun Jian held his sword and replied. How dare Jian deceive everyone? I have never seen the imperial jade seal before. How can I take it out? The Yuan brothers began to sing with red and white faces. Wen Tai, this jade seal belongs to your majesty today and cannot be kept privately. Please hand it over quickly. Ah Jian, this is the imperial jade seal of the country. You can't hold on to it. Here it is, brother. I can hold on to it. Sun Jian's face was full of righteousness. I dare not deceive the alliance leader. I went to the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but if it doesn't, it means it doesn't exist. Sun Jian watched as Yuan Shao's smile gradually faded away, while Yuan Shu, who was laughing coldly on the side, shook his heart and held his sword as he retreated. Jianda couldn't help but sigh when he saw this situation. The countdown to Sun Jian's death begins. Just like in history, if Sun Jian wants to return to his family's place, he must pass Jingzhou under Lu Biao no matter which route he takes. Of course Lu Biao wouldn't agree. Yuan Shao, who is in alliance with me, has said that Sun Jian has offended him and will seal you off on the road. I haven't found you yet, you brought it to your door yourself. So I'm not going to fight you endlessly. If I hit you twice, you just stick to me. But you ended up yelling and insisting on fighting me. Okay, there's nothing we can do, then let's fight. Huang Zu, go ahead. Give him some color to see. I can't distinguish who is the boss in Jingzhou now. Sun Jian was also very brave. In Dengqing, Fanqing defeated Huang Zu, and after heading south, he was invincible, causing Lu Biao to lose his head. The two major victories gave Sun Jian confidence, and he even began to want to fight all the way from Jingbei to Jingzhou. At this moment, the war situation underwent a 180-degree change. Once, Sun Jian hit Huang Zu head-on and was careless. He chased after Yan Mountain alone and was shot dead by Huang Zu's army with arrows. Sun Jian left the Starry Han dynasty stage early like this. Left behind a group of generals and a large family of his own. The eldest son, Sun Su, inherited his bravery, but also inherited his father's personality. It's easy to fold, that's what it means. But these are all part of the story. In the end, Sun Su and his troops went to Shochuan to seek refuge with Yuan Shu.